This is a guest essay by Bob Goldberg, who writes the newsletter, The New Zionist Times.
There's a special kind of Washington, D.C. genius that looks at the Middle East, sees Iran sitting on a mountain of near weapons grade uranium, firing missiles through its proxies, hiding nuclear work from inspectors, and chanting death threats like it's karaoke night at the apocalypse, and says, "You know who we really need to worry about? Israel." That is the new Democratic Party's foreign policy brain trust at work. A contradiction in terms so perfect it makes Michael Jackson's childcare advisors sound like a blue ribbon commission. 30 Democrats in the House of Representatives, led by Representative Joaquin Castro, sent Secretary of State Marco Rubio a letter demanding that the United States publicly cough up the details of Israel's nuclear capabilities: warheads, launchers, fissile material production, Dimona, doctrine, red lines, use thresholds, the works. In other words, while Iran is the country that built secret enrichment facilities, blew past civilian enrichment needs, armed and trained Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, and turned the Nair region into a missile petting zoo, these Democrats want to subpoena the Jewish state's deterrent. If your non-proliferation policy on Iran begins with first expose Israel, you're not doing arms control. You're part of what should be called the Ayatollah's Congressional Caucus. Castro Letter's theory is not subtle. It says Iran and Saudi Arabia make nuclear decisions based on the quote-unquote perceived capabilities of their neighbors, and argues that U.S. silence about Israel's arsenal makes coherent Middle East non-proliferation impossible. The letter even invokes the 2006 testimony of Robert Gates during his Senate Armed Services Committee confirmation hearing to become Secretary of Defense, that Iran is surrounded by nuclear powers: Pakistan, Russia, Israel, and the United States in the Gulf. The implication is not exactly hidden under a Persian rug. Iran's nuclear ambitions are, at least partly, a rational response to Israel. That is how we got from Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon to Israel made them do it. It is non-proliferation as couples therapy. I only enriched uranium to 60% because Israel wouldn't be emotionally available about Dimona. For those less in the know, the Shimon Peres Negev Nuclear Research Center near Dimona, a city in the southern district of Israel, nestled in the Negev Desert, is widely believed to be the heart of Israel's undeclared nuclear weapons program, functioning as a plutonium production reactor that has served as the backbone of its nuclear deterrence strategy since the 1960s. And the congressional letter is only the elected politician version of a much broader Democratic Party catechism. Israel attacked before diplomacy was exhausted and, without credible evidence, that the attack was necessary at that precise moment. So that explains why Iran, which signatories claimed was not a nuclear threat, has become one. Ilan Goldenberg, J Street's senior policy chief and a veteran of Democratic Party foreign policy circles, made the argument more explicitly. After Israel's strike, Iran would, quote, almost certainly conclude that its only real deterrent is a nuclear weapons arsenal. In the long run, Iran is almost certainly going for a nuclear weapon, unless diplomacy somehow changes the equation. So, according to these Democrats, Iran does not pursue nuclear weapons because it is an expansionist theocracy, which has spent 45 years exporting Islamist revolution, sponsoring terrorism, and threatening to wipe out and trying to dominate the region. No, of course not. Iran pursues nuclear weapons because Israel fought back too convincingly. In Democratic Party foreign policy, deterrence is provocative when Jews do it and understandable when mullahs do it. Their argument has three parts. First, Iran was not actively building a bomb this minute. Second, Israeli and U.S. attacks were therefore unnecessary and provocative. Third, those attacks may now cause Iran to build the bomb. According to them, Iran is some misunderstood Quaker study group with centrifuges. The International Atomic Energy Agency reported that, as of June 2025, Iran had 440.9 kilograms of uranium enriched up to 60%, a short technical step from weapons grade, and inspectors had not been able to verify the stockpile after the June attacks. Furthermore, the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation noted that going from that 60% stockpile to 90% weapons-grade material requires only about 1% of the separative work Iran had already done. But yes, by all means, let's spend the afternoon asking whether Israel's ambiguity is making the mullahs feel insecure. Iran gets to stand at the edge of weaponization forever, because any attempt to stop it will allegedly justify the very weaponization you're trying to prevent. All the more reason to once again trust Iran not to secretly rebuild its nuclear weapons program and use the billions in unfrozen assets to rebuild its air defenses and ballistic missile systems while amping up drone production. Israel's policy of ambiguity has done what deterrence is supposed to do. Israel has not tested a nuclear weapon. Israel has not transferred nuclear designs to rogue states and other actors. Israel has not built a global nuclear bazaar like Pakistan's AQ Khan network. Israel has not signed the 1968 Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons and has spent decades playing hide-and-seek with inspectors. Israel has not threatened to erase another country from the map while enriching uranium deep under a mountain. But in an increasing part of the Democratic Party's moral imagination, Israel's restraint becomes sinister because it is Israeli, that is, Jewish, and Iran's aggression becomes contextual because it is anti-Israeli. This is anti-Jewish. Israel's deterrent is destabilizing. Iran's deterrent would be understandable. Israel's secrecy is the problem. Iran's secrecy is a negotiating challenge. Israel must be transparent. Iran must be engaged. Israel gets congressional interrogation, embargoes, and stipulations. Iran gets another so-called round of talks. The most dangerous part is the message this sends to Tehran. Keep enriching, keep threatening, keep rebuilding, keep hiding what survives the strikes. The American left, and really much of the Western left, will eventually explain that your nuclear ambitions are a reaction to Israeli arrogance, Israeli ambiguity, Israeli escalation, and Israeli existence. And if Israel hits you again, all the better. Now your bomb becomes defensive. If I were the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, I would want exactly this faction-running U.S. policy. Not because they love Iran, they do not, but because they reliably deliver what Tehran needs: American division, pressure on Israel, endless process, and a vocabulary in which Iranian nuclear ambition is always a response to someone else's provocation. The regime in Tehran understands the West very well. It knows which politicians will blame Israel first. It knows which think tanks will convert Iranian escalation into Israeli fault. It knows which former officials will confuse not building a bomb today with not preparing the option for tomorrow. And it knows which party faction can look at the Middle East and conclude that the nuclear power we really need to worry about is the one that has never used the bomb, never sold the bomb, and never made death to America a governing slogan. And here's the punchline. These visionaries really believe the way to deter Iran is to expose Israel's deterrent, blame Israel for Iran's nuclear ambitions, cut off weapons to Israel, and revive the deal that gave Tehran time, money, and diplomatic cover while it funded Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, the Houthis, ballistic missiles, and enrichment. Useful idiots doesn't begin to cover it. Useful idiots are amateurs. This is lethal credentialed stupidity, the kind that looks at a genocidal regime racing toward the bomb and decides the real problem is the country trying to stop it.